Hey there, welcome back to another episode of That's Wizard. My name's James.
And my name's Ronan Williams.
How you doing, Ronan?
We had a week off last week. Why did we James was not present, shall we say,
Yes.
last week.
I don't want to go into too much detail, but I had an infection.
And don't mention that.
Well, like I said, I won't go into too much.
Cut that.
I think you can keep that in. Oh, but I'm telling you, infection on my armpits, and it was not pretty. It was not pretty. I'd lift them up, right, and I'd look in the mirror, and there'd just be like not boils.
Right. This is the start of the podcast. We can't start it like
yes,
this.
you can.
All right, we're starting it like this. My name's Ronan Williams. I'm here with James Morley, and we're starting the podcast talking about your armpits. Have you had a good week? Great, let's go. Have you had a good week, James? 2 weeks. I've only seen you once in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it feels like such a long time. Well, actually, we did meet up for that acting lesson.
We have an acting class on a Wednesday, which started back up again this week.
Brilliant. Meet a lot of new people. I reckon if it's one of those things that if you don't go to, you kind of make fun of. When you get there,
we were both very, very nervous at the start of the first 10 weeks, and now I feel great. I mean, I went up 2 or 3 times on Wednesday, and I'm so happy to do it.
That's the thing now. You get used to, and the people there, because after 10 weeks you get to know the people, it's less awkward, I find. So you don't mind going up there and making a fool of yourself, because you're in a safe place. You're not even making a fool of yourself. You're there to learn. Everyone's paid the money to learn. You go up there, everyone learns just from watching, even if you're bad. That's the thing about it.
And I think we're all in the same boat. We're all there to do the same thing. And I think at the beginning we were all not equally as nervous, but we were all very nervous. And you forget that going into something. This feels like a therapy session.
It does.
Let's move on to my bit of news. I have a bit of news that I blew up on TikTok the last 2 weeks.
Oh, fantastic. I'm in the presence of a social media star.
Right, you say that sarcastically. I have 2.1 million views on a video on my second channel, thank you very much. And 1,500 views on a video on my main channel.
But they don't equate to anything.
Absolutely. Well, actually, the second channel is 250,000 likes, which does mean something, surely, right?
Yeah, we had a Mr. Popular over here. I reckon you weren't bullied in high school at all.
You know for a fact that's not true. I was the coolest person in high school.
Oh, yeah. You're the jock in this situation.
You are the nerd and I am the jock. And if you say that I was bullied in high school one more time, I'm going to beat you up and take your lunch money.
Joke's on you. I don't have a job anymore. What lunch money?
You don't have any lunch money.
I got no lunch money. Spent it all today for our cinema ticket.
Because you paid this week.
I paid this week.
I paid last time. James paid this time. Should we say what we watched today and what we're going to review later?
Absolutely. Today we watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent with Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal.
We're going to have to make funny names for both the actors in it, like we did last time.
Yeah, we were. Okay, his name is Nicholas Willy Wonka.
Should we call
Cage.
him Nicholas Coppola, which is his actual name?
Is it actually?
Because he's the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, who did The Godfather and things like that. But I think he changed his name because he didn't want people to hire him because he was related to Francis Ford. So he became Nicolas Cage. But we could refer to him as his full name, Nicholas Coppola.
Nicholas Coppola Cage.
Nicholas Coppola Cage, there we go. That's Pedro Pascal. We just called him the Mandalorian.
Mando.
We'll call him Mando.
Pedro, Mando and Pascal. Really good actor. I actually think he's amazing.
He's only in the last 5 or 6 years he's been in things, because he started in
Spanish cinema, I assume.
I think so. I think he did some smaller budget stuff, but the biggest thing he did early in his career was Narcos.
Yes, Narcos, where he played Pablo Escobar, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, terrific. He's just a good underrated, I think the term is, because I think he's...
Well, I think he's probably quite well rated now.
But back then
he was a great find for Netflix.
Oh, definitely.
Because that's all filmed in South America.
He had the right, he had the right look, shall we say.
He looked like Pablo Escobar.
He did look like Pablo Escobar. Have you seen this thing where Pablo Escobar was so rich they just had to bury so much money in South Africa, and to this day people still go out there looking for that money?
Do they really? Yeah. There's that story that Pablo Escobar had to write off like 10% of all of the cash that he brought in every year just because he was eaten by rats in the storage. So like he made a few billion every year, and they had to write off a few tens of thousands.
So just imagine having that amount of money.
And there's a hippo population in South America that he personally brought over from Africa that now are wild in South America that aren't native.
That's brilliant. What else are we going to talk about today as well?
Well, should we start with our famous opening section, which is the Muse?
The Muse. I always look forward to doing this once a week.
Because I was Josh Safdie's Muse when he wrote. You missed that. It's been 2 weeks. You missed that joke.
And I was just about to say, I thought it was the band The Muse.
All right, so I'll start. Well, I have 2.5 pages worth of MUSE today. Actually, 3 pages, because I just copied and pasted a quote over, which took quite a bit of space. But the first bit of news is quite big financial-wise, and you're obviously our finance bro of the podcast. Yeah. So I wanted to know what you thought about Elon Musk buying Twitter for $44 billion.
I know. It's a lot of money. You can just get Twitter for free. You can make an account.
I haven't heard that joke in the last 2 weeks.
Have you not?
I definitely have.
No, I saw it. I just thought I'd nick it. But no, it's a big thing, to be fair. Apparently, some people's accounts who were banned have been unbanned already.
Are they really?
People are saying that it's an end for free speech on Twitter because Elon Musk can control it, and people say allegedly he's crazy.
Allegedly he's
crazy.
We don't want to say that because he'll ban us from Twitter if we do.
I don't even have Twitter, but
I do have Twitter. My @ is @RonanWilliams98 if you want to add me on Twitter.
Just doxing yourself.
That's why I did this story, is so that people could add me on Twitter.
People, for future Ronan who's editing, the listener.
But what I thought about this, like 150, 200 years ago, the really famous people, when they wanted to express their opinions, they bought newspapers and things. And I think this is just the 21st century equivalent of a billionaire buying a newspaper, like Citizen Kane. Like he buys a newspaper because he wants everyone to know his opinion on things. And I think this is kind of the same thing, so it's not as worrying as people make it out to be.
Well, that's the thing. He's gonna maybe put some caps on what people can say about himself, or maybe what about Tesla, if you think about it. You never know. Though, but then again, not that matters. I don't have Twitter.
Well, he's talking about it as if he's bringing free speech back to Twitter. But
there's already a lot of people just going around saying stuff on Twitter anyway.
Well, that's the thing about Twitter, is if you don't like Twitter, it's your fault, because there's so many different parts of Twitter that you could be in, and if you choose to be in the weird, dark, scary right-wing parts, that's all your fault. I'm on film Twitter full of people talking about Nicolas Cage.
Where we got our movie news from.
Where I got a lot of my movie news from.
Oh, that's so good. And with that, in addition, I saw a tweet that he said he wants to buy Coca-Cola next and put the cocaine back in it.
That's quite funny, actually. He's a strange guy, though, isn't he?
He's a very strange guy.
All right, we're going to move to the second bit of news because that's quite fun, because there was a Thor trailer last week.
I am looking forward to watching that. Who's directing it?
It's Taika Waititi, like the last one. have you seen his New Zealand films?
Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit's. Really I don't know if that was New Zealand funded, but I'm thinking Hunt for the Wilder People and things like that.
No, I haven't.
Honestly, you'd like Hunt for the Wilder People.
Just give me a message, send that to me.
And you'd like What We Do in the Shadows. Have you seen the movie of that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's very much Hunt for the Wilder People.
I love the TV show.
The TV show is so good. I think he's a producer on that.
Matt Berry.
Matt Berry's on that. I've been watching so much Toast of London.
I absolutely love Toast of London. I was hoping they'd bring back another season, but
they did Toast of Tinseltown.
Is that
where he goes to America? Have you not seen that?
No,
that
was
on BBC iPlayer a month or so ago. They had Toast of Tinseltown. It's like 6 episodes. It's like the length of a season.
You are kidding me.
It's like separate from Toast of London.
But is it the same?
But it's the same, and he gets a job. And the running joke throughout the series is that he's in the new Star Wars, and he keeps going, "Hey, I'm in the new Star Wars" to everyone he meets. And it turns out he's the voice of a robot in the new Star Wars, which is really funny because at the same time he was in Book of Boba Fett as the voice of a robot.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. I think that was just coincidence, but it worked out really well.
Yeah, look, he has the same hat and everything.
Yeah, it's the same character. It's really.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, there's only like 6 episodes.
Is it the same like with the running joke where he's in the voiceover booth as well?
Clem Fandango goes to America with
him. He does. I love Clem Fandango. F off Clem Fandango. Oh God,
I love Toast.
I do. Matthew Perry is so good.
Toast wasn't on my list of stuff to talk about, but I'm glad we did.
I'm so glad to just watch it because I just love him.
I don't know if there's anything more you want to say about the Thor trailer.
Thor trailer.
Yeah, that's what
we're
talking
saying.
about.
I'll have to spoil a little bit if you guys don't know. That is Jane. In the comics, it is Jane. You know, his lover.
Yeah. It's Natalie Portman, who hasn't been in them since 2013.
That's true, because she didn't want to return as an...
I think she's credited in like the main cast of Endgame, because there's scenes of her from Thor: The Dark World that they took and used in Endgame, because they go back in time to that film.
Yeah.
And I think she said, yeah, but you have to give me a full credit at the end of the movie or something. But she's come back to this, and in that, when she shows up in that trailer, I'm 100% sure it's not her body.
Oh, you're saying it's like a body actor?
I think it's like, because she's big in that, and Natalie Portman's quite small.
Quite small. The thing is, as well, I remember reading the comics, and in the comics, Jane had cancer. Her holding the hammer is a way to help alleviate the cancer, if I remember correctly. Or
you're a big nerd, aren't you? A big comic reader.
Well, I say I read it.
You watched a YouTube video.
I watched a YouTube video. Yeah. I ain't paying. I want to support my local Marvel comics, surely.
The big company that is Disney.
The big company. I've got to support them, the locals. What was the next on the news?
The next bit of news is also Marvel Disney. And it's Spider-Man director Jon Watts has stepped down from Fantastic Four. He was going to direct the Fantastic Four movie for a couple of years' time. They haven't actually said why he's stepping down yet, apart from creative differences. But apparently Sony still expect him to direct Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland. And I found a quote from Kevin Feige about this. Would you like to read the quote for me, James?
Absolutely. We were looking forward to continuing our work with him to bring the Fantastic Four into the MCU, but understand and are supportive of his reasons for stepping away. We are optimistic that we will have the opportunity to work together again down the road. Maybe that's something they're saying. Maybe they're really not having. They don't want to work with him altogether. You never know with these big companies.
Well, I think what Disney specifically like to do is to pick on like small indie directors, so that they can push them around and say, this is the movie we want to make. And at some point they step back and go, well, no, I'm quite a big director now. I can make what I want. So I think there's a limited shelf life for being the director for a Disney Marvel. Like Star Wars, exactly. Like the Han Solo film had Chris Lord and Phil Miller directing. And they fell out with Disney because they're relatively big directors. And Disney couldn't push them around so much. They did 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street.
That's true.
And when they got kicked off Han Solo, they went on to do Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So they do good work, and then Ron Howard came in and directed that after. But
the thing is with the Fantastic Four, it's going to be better than the one that they recently released. Do you know who I want back is Mr. Fantastic, Ewan Griffith?
I think he might be. I mean, next week we're doing Doctor Strange. Yeah. There's a chance that he's going to be in Doctor Strange.
Hopefully he's a brilliant actor. Yeah, he's done do you know... I've looked at his filmography, and a lot of it is him being a detective. So if you look through it, like his past couple of ones, there's a TV show called Harrow. There's one called Forever, and he's just detective.
He's from around here.
We're
doxing ourselves, saying we're Welsh.
He's a local boy. He is. He's Welsh.
He is Welsh.
He's a local.
I used to go out with a girl who, not showing off, I've had girlfriends.
I've had girlfriends.
But she swore blind that her dad beat Ewan Griffiths up at school. I don't know how true that is, but that's what she used to say.
That's the type of thing you want to bring up. My dad beat your dad up.
My dad could beat Mr. Fantastic up, so don't mess with me. I met her dad a couple of times. He was quite scary, actually.
Oh, God.
Shall we move on to some DC news? We'll go from Marvel to DC.
DC.
This is actually quite sad news because I'm a big fan of Legends of Tomorrow.
Yes.
And Legends of Tomorrow has been cancelled after 7 seasons.
It is a shame. 7 seasons. That is a good run, to be fair. Not many TV shows actually make it past 3 seasons.
Well, Arrowverse shows. Flash is on season 8 or 9 now.
Flash is on. To be honest, I dropped Flash off around season 6. The animation, for me, the CGI just got worse. It got a bit samey. The first couple of seasons were fantastic, to be fair.
I quite like the season. I've seen quite a bit of season 3 of that because they do Gorilla Grodd and they do. There's that musical episode where they go into a world where they can only sing.
Yes, and the Supergirl came into that.
Yeah, Supergirl.
Do you know why that is? Because you know the person who plays Barry Allen and the person who plays Supergirl, they were in Glee.
Together?
They were in Glee together. Not together, but they were in Glee at separate times.
Okay.
And you could see them singing Glee, and they're actually terrific singers. They've also released some of their own music as well.
Grant Gustin and Melissa, can't think of her second name, but she's Superman. But I thought that was sad music. That's one of the few shows that I've been keeping up to date with.
Do you reckon I'll have a good ending? Because Arrow had a good ending. That's why it closed off, as well. They killed Oliver off.
Well, they're done with Legends Tomorrow, finished end of February, I think. So that is done. They had the second to last episode was like, well, there's no need for the Legends anymore. The ship is all automated, and they were all signing their contracts to say they weren't going to do the job anymore. And then the last episode was, oh, actually, we still need Legends to do all of this time travel-y stuff. And then the episode finishes with all of these people going on ready to do the next season. So it's a bit of a shame that they won't get to finish that story. But also, Batwoman has been cancelled after 3 seasons.
Yeah, I never watched that. I just wasn't a fan, to be honest. I watched the first episode.
Well, the first
I never
season
caught
had
on.
Ruby Rose, and then she had this weird back injury, and she didn't come back for the second or third.
They changed it.
They changed her out, but I've not watched much of the second or third.
No,
so.
I just watched the first episode. I just didn't have that same gritty feel as I was hoping. When I first watched it, I was like, this guy is going to be like Arrow, hopefully a bit gritty, a bit different. It's alright, nothing.
They do that weird, it's an Alice in Wonderland stuff in that first season is what I remember of it. And it's a bit strange. But the reason I think they're doing this is I think that DC TV is trying to push stuff off the CW. Like they're keeping going with Arrow and whatever's still going. But
Arrow finished.
Is Arrow finished?
Arrow finished.
Oh,
yeah.
what did I meant Flash.
Flash.
They're keeping going with Flash, but I think they're aiming for things that they can keep up on HBO Max rather than because there's a lot more money in that for
I was
them.
gonna say CW. I've noticed the quality of the TV shows are of lower, but HBO higher quality, higher budget.
Well, of the Arrowverse stuff, Superman and Lois is the best looking, it's the best written, and that's because it's made by HBO. For the CW, which is it goes to show a lot in the quality of those two channels, I think.
With that, what's next on the news?
The next bit of news is that James Corden is leaving the Late Late Show next year.
Ah, okay.
I don't know if you watch the Late Late Show.
No, the thing with Britain I found is the James Corden has divided a lot
James
of the...
Corden.
What did I say?
James Corden.
Got Batman on my mind. No, so with James Corden, he's divided a lot of the people. I don't really care, but a lot of people hate him and a lot of people love him as well, and I just don't know why.
I mean, I'm quite indifferent to James Corden. I'd quite like him to come back and do some more Gavin and Stacey, just because I'd like to be in Gavin and Stacey, and they'd give me some work probably if they were filming. You know, I'm quite indifferent. I did really like that show. He started in 2015, and Craig Ferguson did that show before him. I don't know if you've seen much of Craig Ferguson on that show. He was excellent. Whenever he had someone on there that he knew, you could feel the connection, and he'd literally everyone that was on there, Craig Ferguson would just flirt with them for 10 minutes and sometimes talk about the movie they were there to talk about, but basically just flirt with everyone that went on. I love Craig Ferguson, but it doesn't really bother me. He's been doing that 8 years now or something, James Corden. Shall I just say that there was going to be an Expendables 4 and they're going to call it the Expend-4bles, which is quite funny, I thought.
Which is quite... because they're old men now.
They are so old. And Mel Gibson was in the last one. And
yeah, he was the bad guy.
In real life and in the movie.
No, Mel Gibson was in the second one, I think.
No, isn't Jean-Claude Van Damme in the second one?
You're right, you're right, yeah.
And then isn't Harrison Ford in the third one as well? Harrison Ford has a helicopter.
Yes, he does. Because I also remember the voice actor for Puss in Boots is in the third one as well.
Antonio Banderas.
Also the father in Spy Kids.
I can't believe you know Antonio Banderas as the voice actor.
No. I do. Oh, I said I didn't know his name, but I totally forgot it.
I mean, you'd sound so much cooler if you said Zorro or something like that. You went Puss in Boots.
I'm a little bit. No, to be fair, he was amazing in Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
He's so good in that, and Desperado.
Do you know how they did the gun shooting? It's very graphic. Apparently, the guns they used actually just squirted the blood at high pressure. So when they do hit, there's that splash.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they made it so in most films, they
have a squib and it blows off the person that's shot.
I learned that from them Corridor Crew.
Did you? That's actually really cool. But I suppose you have to be very close for that to work.
And also apparently made it very graphic in comparison.
Yeah, because it would like squirt off them as well. That's actually really cool, James. That's a good bit. That's
a good
fact. You're not just the guy that reacts to the news. I sent James a meme this week that said the dream job is to be the guy on a podcast that reacts to the person that did the actual research.
That's what you get for being lazy.
Yeah.
The dream job.
There's been a release date for the UK for Everything Everywhere All the Time, which is the Sandra Oh movie that we saw a trailer for just earlier.
It looks. I said it's like what Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness could be if it was a 15.
Yeah.
Because I can tell with that Sandra.
It's what it wants to be.
What it wants to be. Because you can tell with this one. You know how you're talking about with Disney having to have creative...
control.
Control, that's a good word. for it. This one seems, because it looks going to be
an A24 movie, and they're a distribution company that do lots of that kind of thing. They did Midsummer and things like that.
With that one, if you guys don't know her, she did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah, she's in loads. I love Sandra Oh.
She's in.
Which
she
James Bond is she in?
Oh, she's the one with Pierce Brosnan.
It's one of the later Pierce Brosnan ones, isn't it? I can never remember.
No,
There's Pierce Brosnan did 4. GoldenEye's the first one. Die Another Day's
No
the
Time
last.
to Die?
No, that's the most recent Daniel Craig
Yes.
one. But there's the 2 middle Pierce Brosnan ones.
GoldenEye?
GoldenEye's the first Pierce Brosnan one. But the 2 middle ones, I could not tell you the difference between them.
No,
They're exactly the same film.
I was going to say, the thing I remember about Pierce Brosnan's one is that he's surfing on a massive wave.
That's
CGI.
And Die Another Day. I love that one. They go to an ice palace.
Yes.
And there's the invisible car in that one. And the bad guy's got diamonds embedded in his face, and he has plastic surgery so that he goes from Asian of some sort.
Yeah. And then he gets implants. Yes.
And he has the diamonds, and then he has his face, and he turns into Toby Stevens. Is the actor that plays.
He's in fencing, and he fights James Bond.
He fights James Bond, and James Bond doesn't know he's the Asian guy that has the diamonds in his face, but he turns out to be in the end. That's the big reveal, right? But Toby Stevens is, if anyone ever asks you who played James Bond the most, Toby Stevens has played James Bond on BBC Radio 4 audio dramas of James Bond every year for the last 15 years.
Really?
So the person that has played James Bond the most times is Toby
guy.
Stevens, who is a bad guy. That's my funny James Bond fact.
That's so good. Is that all the news, or have we got a few pieces more?
James, I have so much
You
news
have so
today.
much news.
This is 2 weeks worth of news, in fairness. But the next bit of news is that there have been released dates for the next 5 Avatar films.
Absolutely.
They've all got names. I haven't got all the names here because I didn't have enough space.
Avatar 2 is Beauty Underwater or something.
The Way of the Water.
The Way of the Water.
And the trailer for it is apparently going to be released in theatres alongside Multiverse of Madness next week.
Oh.
Yeah.
As we said before, we're going to watch that, so we'll be able to tell you about the trailer. That's probably the thing I'm going to be looking forward to the most. We got Doctor Strange.
Don't care about Doctor Strange. We want to see the Avatar.
We just want to watch the Avatars, which has been in years in the making. I've been watching Dances with Wolves a lot of times just to keep me updated.
You could just watch Avatar.
Could just watch Avatar, or I could watch the original. I say that because if you haven't watched Dances with Wolves, Avatar is essentially the same thing.
It is basically the same movie. I still like Avatar.
I still really like Avatar.
I saw this picture from Avatar the other day, and Sigourney Weaver's Avatar character has a Stanford, which is the university, shirt on, but she'd have had to have a specific shirt made for her avatar, so that people knew that she went to this very famous university. It's so funny that she is desperate for people to know she went to this Stanford University.
I just realised because those avatars are like 7, 8, 9 foot.
They're
tall.
like 10 foot tall, so they're like twice as tall. So she's had to have a shirt doubly size made. The thing is, it was marketed as something you've never seen before. This one can't be marketed like this because we saw Avatar 15 years ago.
Have you noticed as well with movies in the cinema now, there's a lot less 3D. I remember back in
3D
the day,
was such a big thing.
3D was such a big thing. So I remember. I feel
James
old.
is very old.
I do, but okay, I remember this. 3D used to be blue and red glasses.
It's black now, isn't it?
Now the screens are just pure black. Do you remember that? And now we've been to the cinema how many times?
I've been to one 3D film in the last 5 years.
That's the thing.
And that was only because I couldn't get tickets to the 2D showing.
I have not seen another 3D
I think it's
film
just a
in
fad.
ages. It could be.
To get people to pay more money.
People, I would say 4D is all the rage now, but I'm not seeing. I don't see 4D. I don't see no point in that. I don't want to have to move in my chair when I'm eating.
The fad I want is smell-o-vision.
Smell-o-vision.
So when something happens, when someone's cooking a chicken in the movie, they like pump the smell of chicken into the cinema. That's what I want.
Oh, that'd be so awful. Because what if somebody takes a crap on the ground and the person's got to smell it?
It's about experiencing, James, and you'd experience the smell of the crap, so you've got to be able to smell it.
You want to smell crap? You should open up my protein bottle after I haven't washed it. It's awful.
The next bit of news, we've got a couple more bits of news, but the next proper bit of news is that Disney has refused Saudi Arabia's request to cut 12 seconds of footage out of Multiverse of Madness, where America Chavez refers to her 2 moms, they spelt it with an O, 2 moms, And the film has been banned in Egypt because they haven't removed this 12 seconds scene, which is a reference to her being LGBT. And why I thought this was significant was that people are lauding this as triumphant of Disney for standing up to Saudi Arabia and Egypt. What this says to me is that the only representation that America Chavez, who is a very famous queer character, the only reference to her being queer is 12 seconds in the entire movie. People aren't reading that as that, but that's what I get from it. The only reference to her being queer is that she has 2 moms.
She has 2 moms. Ah, well, you know, at least a step in the right direction is a step, at least.
I mean, it's like a toe over the line. It's not really.
They're taking a dip in a pool before plunging in.
In a second, we're going to talk about something that is much better queer representation. But before we go to that, we're going to talk about Netflix a little bit, because Netflix are in a bit of trouble at the moment.
Yes, I've heard that they've lost a lot of subscribers. When you think about it, the amount of accounts there are, they've probably got double the amount of views, because I don't know about you, I share accounts. I use my...
They're trying to cut down on password sharing.
Yes, but that's the thing. How can you patrol that? That's really quite hard to do, isn't it?
Well, I think you'd have to limit devices and things like that. But apparently
that's going to annoy a lot of people.
Apparently they've lost 200,000 subscribers.
Well, half of that is due to them coming out of Russia. Remember, they stopped.
They stopped in Russia, yeah,
because of obviously the Ukraine.
But they're expecting to lose 2 million more subscribers in for the rest of this year.
Aren't they doing that because they're raising up the prices?
Well, they're raising prices. They're talking about adding a subscription where you pay and there's adverts on Netflix. They're cutting down on password sharing. Netflix, I think, the reason I added this, James, is because I have a lot to say about this. Netflix are in a lot of hot water because their main competition is doing very well, which is Disney Plus. And Disney Plus is doing very well for lots of reasons. It has name properties that people want to see. It's about half the price of Netflix at the moment.
Netflix like £10 a month?
Netflix is like 12, 13, 14 pound a month.
Is that after the increase?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's up nearly about 14, 15 pound a month. Disney Plus is what, £7, £8 a month? Something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's a big difference. And I don't think you're not getting twice as much quality content on Netflix as you are. And we've seen Netflix films and things like that. They're not always the best.
No.
Like, they occasionally make something good, like Extraction.
Extraction was amazing. They're bringing out an Extraction too.
But quite regularly, Netflix films are a bit shit. We're allowed as many shits in this as possible. We're only allowed one fuck.
Oh, you just used it.
I did that. That was me being silly. I can cut that out if you want. I can beep it.
No, that's fine.
But the reason I thought this was important is because people like to choose sides. Like, it's Disney or Marvel, or you choose sides, right? And people are choosing Disney or Netflix here. But if you choose one and Netflix goes under and you're only left with Disney Plus, what does that mean? It means Disney Plus will raise their prices because there's no competition.
It's a monopoly then. But no, there will. I don't think Netflix will go under. It's too many. I know they said they are losing, but that's like 2 million in the grand scheme of how many people use it. Maybe
a lot
of people. So I think they can take the losses. I hope they don't keep raising up the prices.
Apparently it's the first time ever that they've reported a loss in subscribers. Every other time they've reported an increase.
I would love to see their profit margins though. You have some good films, like you're saying, Extraction, Red Notice. I kind of enjoy that.
But they're also losing stuff. Like, they're losing Friends soon. They're losing
they're taking Friends off.
They're losing some big name stuff.
Friends
I think their licenses run out or something. I think Friends is going to HBO Max because HBO just bought the rights to Friends or something.
Oh, that's gonna annoy.
And HBO, maybe that's the case in America. And HBO Max is coming here in the next couple of years.
But they are gonna lose a lot of.
And the problem with that is that means Now TV will also struggle, because Now TV currently, basically most of their releases are HBO, Warner Brothers releases, and that'll all go away for Now TV. So it's now. HBO Max arriving here will also be quite a big struggle for lots of companies here as well. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's very complicated. This is business, and you're our finance bro. But because we talked about Netflix, I wanted to talk a little bit about Heartstopper, which I mentioned to you 2 weeks ago. I doubt you've seen this. It's a new series on Netflix.
No, I haven't.
I didn't think you'd have seen it. I just wanted to talk about this, James, because it is the cutest thing I've ever seen.
It's the
two
LGBT.
boys. Yeah. So I showed you the comic.
Yeah.
So I read the first volume of the comic, and why I liked this show is because the first volume of the comic ends after episode 3, and it's 8 episodes, and the first volume ends after episode 3. So I had no idea what was happening in the next 5 episodes, which I really liked, and it was so nice to see well represented gay teenage little boys. It's genuinely so nice, and I don't want to get too political about it. I think it would have been so excellent to have something like that when we were growing up 10, 15 years ago. And I think kids now
just...
They don't know what they've got, James. They don't know what they've got.
No, that's good. It's always good to have some more representation. All representation is good representation, kind of.
But it's not just gay representation. There's a trans girl in it, there's lesbians in it, there's bi representation, which is quite rare at this point.
As I say, that would be good in Euphoria as well. That's some good...
Well, I don't know if Euphoria is good representation.
Good representation. They're all really bad. It's just got representation.
These are good people, and I think it goes a long way. It's such a nice show. It's written by Alice Osmond, who did the comics, and it's directed by Euros Lyn. Now, I don't know if you've heard that name before. Euros Lyn is a Welsh director, and you'll have seen some of his work because Euros Lyn did about 15 episodes of Doctor Who when it came back. So you will definitely have seen Euros Lyn's work. David Tennant, and he did a couple of Eccleston episodes as well. And I think he might have done 1 or 2 Matt Smith ones.
Okay,
but he did some good work, Euros Lyn.
I think that... fair enough. I think that's all of the news now. We'll have to move on to our next...
Moon Knight. Or do you want to save Moon Knight for next week?
We could save Moon Knight for next week.
Because next week's the end of the season.
Season finale.
I just want to say the hippo looks great.
The hippo does look great.
Is that a spoiler for Moon Knight?
No, that doesn't say anything.
If you haven't seen Moon Knight, that makes no sense.
Just watch the hippo scene. Great.
The death thing looks great, though.
It does. But yeah, again, we'll save that for next week.
But that's the end of our Muse section.
So we're on to our next section, which is the review. As we said, we spoke about The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Which is the Nicolas Cage, plays Nicolas Cage.
You mean Nicolas Coppola Cage?
Well, he did play Nick Cage played Nicolas Cage, or the other way around.
No, it's Nicolas Cage playing Nick Cage.
Because Nick Cage is the character, but also there isn't just one Nick Cage in this movie.
No, there is.
I didn't want to
Nicky
get to.
Cage.
That's what he called him, Nicky.
Nicky.
I wanted to talk about that later. I don't think that's Nick Cage doing, because it's de-aged. I doubt that's Nicolas Cage doing the de-aging, so we might have to do a little bit of research later on. I had a couple of people in mind who I know do famous Nicolas Cage impressions, who it might be. There's a guy called Marquand, Ross Marquand, who's on The Walking Dead, does a famous Nicolas Cage, and then Howard from Big Bang Theory does a famous Nicolas Cage. So I thought one of those people might have been brought in to do a Nicolas Cage impression to Nicolas Cage. And the idea of that was hilarious in my head.
I think it is just a de-aging. I don't think it's that difficult to de-age stuff. And I mean, you saw the stuff with Star Wars.
Yeah, but he's working off himself, so it would be easier, I think, if you're going to de-age, to have someone else there
doing the thing.
Then Nicolas Cage can react to someone doing a Nicolas Cage
No, they probably
impression.
do that, but they probably then just they
probably take his face and put it on someone else's, maybe.
Overall, though, I absolutely loved this movie. It was just a story.
It was funny, it was heartwarming, action-packed.
It was so meta throughout the whole story. Javier, which is played by Pablo Pascal.
Is it Pablo? It's not Pablo.
No, it's Pedro.
You're thinking of Pablo Escobar.
I was thinking of Pablo Escobar.
Because I was thinking what was the joke we were going to do, but it didn't sound right.
So Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Mando Pascal.
Pedro Mando Pascal. Yeah, Pedro Mando Pascal is Javier, who's a supposed drug lord. And
well, you don't know that at the beginning.
You don't know that at the beginning.
We won't get into the story yet. We'll just go actors to start.
But yeah, Pedro Mando Pascal, wonderful. As we said, a terrific actor. He's really good in this.
And then there's a few other big names in it. Neil Patrick Harris plays Nick Cage's agent.
Which does Neil Patrick Harris things. Throughout the show, throughout the movie, they were talking about it needs to be a character-driven story, which it is. It is which relies on dialogue to be funny, which it does. The film is
but hysterical. The character is the real person, Nicolas Cage.
The character is Nicolas Cage, and they create a movie, and it's really meta in the fact that the movie they're creating is based on their two lives, and when I say their two lives, the characters' lives, and it is fantastic.
And at the end, there's a movie within a movie,
which is based on real life.
Yeah, I honestly, I didn't. going into this, I didn't really know what to expect. The trailers for it have been basically just that wall scene.
The thing I've noticed as well. So you've seen the trailer with Jason Statham, sorry, and he's going for a Guy Ritchie film. It's a Guy Ritchie film. And it's an actor.
Josh Hartnett is the actor.
And he's going to meet a drug or
it's very
weapon.
similar to that,
I was like, this is very similar to that trailer I watched with the actor going in to meet the drug cartel and has to do missions.
I noticed recently that film has been pushed back. It's supposed to come out around this time. Maybe this is why it's been pushed back.
It's been pushed back because it's oddly similar. But the thing is, the trailers do a good job in hiding the fact that he's a drug dealer. You think he's just some sort of eccentric millionaire, like how we were talking about with Elon Musk, just eccentric. But
he is an eccentric, IRL. He is an eccentric millionaire. Nicolas Cage is.
No, he's a very.
No, I really liked it. I thought Nick Cage is always great, and there's so many clips from Nicolas Cage films in this at the start.
It's very multi-leveled, and it has so many references to other films that.
Other Nicolas Cage.
The Nicolas Cage films.
They barely ever reference anything that isn't a Nicolas Cage film or 100-year-old German film. There's no middle ground.
I've seen the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Have you? I've never seen it.
I did it in my film study thing. Try watching it.
I think I'd enjoy it.
Yes.
I'm an insufferable film catcher. I'd force myself to like it to sound interesting.
Yeah, but then you tell me that, I'm like, oh god, just go away. Don't be one of those.
No, it was really great, and there's lots of layers to it in terms of layered. There's actually some light geopolitical talks about Spain independence of Catalonia and things like that, because the daughter of the president of Catalonia gets kidnapped and things like that, but they don't really dwell on that. The main bulk of the film is, and you're going to tell us the story now.
Well, so it's very hard to say.
There's a famous film actor called Nicolas Cage.
Nick Cage.
Nick Cage.
Eventually, he goes to meet the eccentric millionaire, which is Pedro Pascal.
He needs some money for something.
Because he's broke, which in real life that happened. Nicolas Cage went broke for a bit, and in the movie he's broke. Just say he owes a lot of money.
Yeah.
So he does this favour for Pedro. He goes and meets him. They become very good friends. Pedro wants to make a movie with Nicolas Cage. He does make the movie in the end of it.
Basically, he's bought his way into talking to Nicolas Cage about making a movie with him, because he's written a script, and he sent this script to Nicolas Cage agent and said, I want Nicolas Cage to be in this film.
Nicolas Cage doesn't see the script. Then Nicolas Cage reads the script. He likes it, but this is all happening when the CIA is trying to rescue the president's daughter, who they think Javier, or Pedro's character.
And they're freaked out to why Nicolas Cage is there for no reason.
Because they don't know he's there, so then they recruit him into their schemes.
That's a little bit silly.
It was very silly.
The CIA recruit Nicolas Cage to take down a drug lord, but they're not very good, the CIA.
They're not very good.
They don't know who the ringleader is.
Spoilers, it's the cousin who's the bad guy in the movie the whole time. Pedro's just a pinhead. He doesn't want to do it. He's a kind-hearted, lovely person, and I absolutely love it, because there's a scene in it where the CIA are arguing with Nicolas Cage, saying, "How would you know? You're just a thespian actor of multi years." And then the CIA like, "Yeah, you think that is more experienced than the CIA's top-notch information sources?" And then Nicolas Cage is right, and he's like, "I knew I should always rely on my instinct as an actor."
I think he's playing this character of Nicolas Cage. I don't know how close to actual Nicolas Cage
that's the thing.
This character is.
I reckon very close.
Well, yeah, but you're supposed to think it's very close, right? That's the joke. This is what people think Nicolas Cage is. Well, and I was thinking about other movies where actors have played themselves, and I was thinking about Being John Malkovich, and I was thinking, I don't think that's what John Malkovich is like. I think that's what people think John Malkovich is like, and that's probably what this is, right?
That's a good shout. I never thought of it like that.
And then the Nicky Cage character is this over-the-top exaggeration of what people think Nicolas Cage is or was, like as an actor. And I think I thought in terms of character, there was this really interesting dynamic of who people think Nicolas Cage is, who Nicolas Cage thinks people think Nicolas Cage is, and who Nicolas Cage is. And it was really interesting to see how these ideas
form together.
And it was really interesting.
There is a joke in it as well that I absolutely love. It's where they talk about Nicolas Cage being back.
But he never actually went anywhere.
Not that he went anywhere. It's actually such a good joke because it's true. He's always been there. He's always been making movies. Just none of them have been as big of a hit as that they could be.
Well, he's constantly talking about, because everyone's talking about him being a movie star and he has to do another big movie. But he's constantly saying, well, normal people work constantly. Why is it not good for me to be constantly working? And I think he's right. In terms of, like, Nicolas Cage is always working. He always wants to be working.
Nick, there's a thing as well. I mean, Nick Cage. So Nicky is the or the voice in his head. That's the other character who talk about.
Is he going mad in this? Is that
it's Nicolas Cage, of course he's going mad. No, but Nick Cage wants to be an actor, as in not, and Nicky Cage is the movie star. So the big films.
That's a really interesting dynamic.
And I find that kind of interesting. Is Nicolas Cage an actor in real life, or is he a movie star where he only wants to play big budget movies and become that?
Why can't
star?
you be both, James?
Why can't he be both? That's the question. That's the question. Overall, though, I'll just go to my review. I thought it was a terrific
You're gonna rate
movie.
it now?
I'm honestly I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It was funny. I can imagine it being a cult classic because I'll get to the domestic grosses after. But how would you rate it?
Well, my rating on this show is: would you go out during a global pandemic to see it? And we did. Honestly, there was a relatively full cinema when we were seeing it, and I think it's a real good laugh. Yes. I think if you're a big fan of Nicolas Cage films, this is something you're gonna love.
No.
Because I'm a big fan of Nicolas Cage films. Because I'm a big, strong, manly man that watches action films.
Love National Treasure.
I do love National Treasure.
I think it's amazing.
And A Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But they don't really reference stuff like that. There's posters of National Treasure and things, but it's mainly Nicolas Cage's action career.
Yes.
There's lots of...
He has had a massive career of films.
They change a lot. Like the character Vivian, who works for the CIA, her favourite Nicolas Cage film is Moonstruck. And that is very different to the other CIA character whose favourite films are Face Off and Con Air. And
her other one was The Croods 2.
Well, Croods 2, yeah. There's so many different eras of Nicolas Cage, and he does so many different things. He's such a versatile actor. If I can compliment a very famous actor in his ability to act, he's very versatile.
That's the thing as well. I remember listening to a lot of people laugh in the cinema, and yeah, it was quite full, to be fair, in recent years. Not Endgame levels of full or Avengers, but
for something of this size,
that's the thing. The Unbearable Weight of Massive isn't one of those massive blockbuster movies, and I'll even get to that now. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. This is just a mouthful.
It is too long.
I'm just gonna call it the movie.
The movie within the movie is also called that. I saw on a poster. It was.
I did.
Yeah, I was looking for it because I was wondering if they'd still call it that, but they never say it out loud.
Okay. The budget for this movie is 30 million.
Which I think is a good amount.
That's a good, but
it's still a hell of a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Do you know what I also found though? It's very good quality.
It looks good for 30 million.
It looks very good.
I suppose a lot of it is just filmed on that Spanish
island.
Compound, isn't it?
That's a good point. They're just like they're set in like a home, and you don't need to pay a lot for somebody's home.
Those are just sets. Yeah.
They could just be set. That doesn't cost a lot to make. And if it is just somebody's home, you're literally going to give them a couple of thousand just to be able to film in there.
I think it's probably like a big villa or something in the south of Spain, and then there's a little bit of town stuff at the end, and everything else is probably on sets or in LA probably.
Absolutely.
I'll have a look now actually for locations.
Yeah, please do. I absolutely love.
It was filmed in Croatia, Budapest. Budapest would have been the city stuff at the end.
City stuff.
Los Angeles, California, and it's basically Croatia and Hungary are the settings for Spain, but they look good.
It does look
like if you asked me to picture Croatia and Hungary, I wouldn't have pictured places that look as nice as. Maybe that's my Western idea of what Croatia and Hungary look like.
But with this, would you like to hear the amount of money it grossed? So worldwide, about 16 million, which is kind of a shame, seeing as I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I reckon it's going to be more of a cult classic film. A lot of Nicolas Cage films have become cult classics, like Mandy. good film.
They mentioned Mandy.
They did mention Mandy. Mandy's a good film, and it didn't, like, financially wise, didn't do amazing.
That's an A24 film, like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Exactly. But that's the thing, like, it's one of those films that you're gonna like it if you enjoy it, but because it's so low budget, the marketing's not out there for it, so its name's not going to be as well known.
Well, I'm just scanning through the trivia section on IMDb here. There's actually so much, so I don't want to go through it all. But there's a couple of things. At the end of principal photography, the whole cast and crew were gifted a pillow of Nicolas Cage's face on it, each autographed by him.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Nicolas Cage was originally against the idea of playing himself, turning down several offers, but changed his mind after reading a letter from Tom Gormichkin,
Which is the
director of this film, was attached to a script. And there's loads of stuff here, but
is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
There's loads of trivia here, but you don't need me to just read out IMDb trivia. I really enjoyed this film, James, and I would recommend it to people that like Nicolas Cage as an actor and as a person. I know you wanted to mention the episode of Community before we finished.
Community, there's an episode where they talk about, is Nicolas Cage good? And it sends the character Abed down a massive spiral trying to find out if it is. And you should watch that as well. But on to our next subject. It would be, what are we going to see next week, Ronan?
I think it's Doctor Strange next week.
It is. We've talked about it before in this podcast.
I think we have, actually. There's no surprise here. We haven't been teasing and edging the listener into what we're going to be watching next week.
Next week is going to be Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
I'm quite looking forward to seeing
looking forward to
it.
it.
I mean, we're arty film people that don't necessarily want to see Marvel movies.
Speak for yourself. I want to see Rachel McAdams, I told you.
And I want to see... You
want to see Wong.
I want to see Hugh Jackman is who I want to see.
Oh, I reckon... Oh, yeah,
Patrick... He will be, right? Patrick Stewart's in it, Hugh Jackman will be in it.
Do you reckon...
What if Nicolas Cage is in it as Ghost Rider, and we see two Nicolas Cage movies, one after another?
I would absolutely cream my pants. I'd be like...
You don't even need the edging there.
You don't even need it. Exploded already.
Is there anything else you wanted to say before we go? I wanted to say thank you very much for listening. You can follow me at Ronan Williams 98 on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. Please follow my TikTok. I've been blowing up on that recently. And if you want to like some of my videos, I'd be very grateful because I think they're quite funny. I put a lot of effort into them. Do you want people to follow you on Instagram or do you want to stay anonymous?
No, I'm good. You can just find it. Should all be in the show notes on our podcast.
There should be some information in the show notes.
Well, I just want to say thank you for listening. We'll speak again next week. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening. I've been Ronan Williams,
and I've been James Morley,
and you will continue to be James Morley. I'm only Ronan Williams on this podcast.
I'll think about changing my name every now and then.
Thank you very much for listening. Bye bye.